I hope you guys like accounting because today we are gonna get deep into it. Hello everybody, it's your old pal Tuna here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to talk all about art markets and artist alleys and the impact that they had on my business in 2024, my thoughts on the landscape of market selling and whether or not I'm planning to pursue them in 2025. But don't fear if you are watching this from the distant future, as long as artists and art markets are still a thing, the information herein should still be relevant. First off, this is the first video of 2025, so I want to wish you guys all a happy new year from me and my lemon pig. We don't have any pennies anymore in Canada, so I did give him a dime, which tracks for inflation, I think, and you know, good luck is getting more expensive than ever. As well, if you can tell, I'm getting over a cold right now, but I saw a bunch of people talking about this and I really didn't want to wait, so hopefully my experience and data can help you guys out in running your small art business and my voice will last till the end of the video. Okay, so if you don't know me, yes, my name is Tuna. I am a full-time artist / illustrator and I have been for about a decade now. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about the 10 years that come before this, I have a whole video here on my channel where I go over every year in detail. I primarily sell stickers, sticker sheets, prints, keychains, enamel pins, graphic novels, zines, and comics, all with an original theme, so that is to say that I don't make fan art. As you can see, my style is cute and cartoony, and I have a primary focus on cats, bright colors, and sometimes slightly creepy aesthetics. To preface this, I am a Canadian creator, so all of the numbers and information that you see here is going to be in Canadian dollars. And I'll be discussing markets that take place entirely in Canada, mostly in the lower mainland of Vancouver, as well as BC and a couple across Canada. Last preface, my accounting is neat, but I haven't done my taxes yet, so some of these numbers are rounded or adjusted to make up for that. But I want to introduce you to my income breakdown for 2024, and as you can see, markets are a large portion of that. In the 2024 season, I applied to 32 different markets and I got into 16, so that is a 50% acceptance rate, and one of those was a guest spot that I was invited to. I try to diversify the types of markets that I do, so here it is broken down by category. We have 6 anime, 2 pop culture, 5 niche, and 3 craft markets. So you can get a sense of the types of numbers that we're going to be talking about here. My lowest sales day of the year was $750, and my highest sales day of the year was $3,750. One interesting thing to note is that 66% of my sales were digital, so that was through a Square processor, and 34% of them were cash. When I added up my full income from the year of all the markets that I did and divided that by the number of markets that I attended, my average sales per show came out to just over $2,500. So I should mention that some of these shows are 1 day and some of them are 3 days, so $2,500 for 1 day is really good, $2,500 for 3 days, not so great. I did find that most of the 1-day shows that I did accounted for higher daily sales, and I think that that is partially because when there's only 1 day, people have to go and purchase something right away versus spreading out that revenue over the weekend or 3 days. So $2,500 per show. I do want to break that down even further though, because a big theme of what I want to talk about here is what types of shows I've been attending. So as I mentioned, I've broken my shows down into 4 different types of shows. My average daily sales at each of these types of shows actually gives a lot of additional information. For the niche shows, the daily sales were just over $2,900. For the craft shows, $26. Pop culture shows came in third with $2,300, and anime shows were slightly behind at $2,275. And I'll say again, a lot of anime shows are 3-day shows, and a lot of niche and craft shows are 1 or 2-day shows. My top 3 shows of the year were VanCaf, which is a comic and zine fair, Vancouver, which is a furry convention, love those guys, and KawaiiCon, which was like basically a anime con meets art market that I did put in the anime con category for this data. Now, 11 of the shows that I did were here in Vancouver and 5 were outside of the city. And based on the numbers, my travel shows generally accounted for higher sales, which totally makes sense because I'm only traveling for shows where I feel like I'm going to be making my money's worth. And even when taking into account the higher expenses that it cost to attend those shows, I actually on average made more money at my travel shows in a net capacity versus my home shows, which frankly I wasn't expecting. So very interesting that I crunched those numbers and found that out. So now that we've gone over that a little bit, I want to compare the chart that I showed you at the beginning, which was my gross revenue for 2024. And I want to talk about how my expenses for markets will adjust that. So to save you the time from going through all of my market vlogs from 2024, my overall revenue for markets before expenses in 2024 was $40,650. Now you might be thinking, whoa, that's crazy, so much money. But as I mentioned, that is revenue, and we have a lot of shaving off to do before we get down to how much I am actually taking home from these markets. My total expenses for 2024 for markets and table costs was about $6,200. And my estimated merchandise cost, and again, this is estimated at about 20%, is around $8,000. This brings my revenue before taxes to about $26,500. And now you can see how that slots in with my other income sources. I would say that markets have the highest expenses incurred in order to make my money back, with Patreon being a close second, with my shop a third, commissions a fourth, and my other sort of social media related income being relatively expense free, I guess. And last but not least, when it comes to these numbers, if you want to do the math and figure out how much I made this year, go right ahead. Just remember that I will pay 25% of that as income tax to the government. Love those guys. As an aside, I will mention that I design and produce a lot of new products over the course of the year, and I do that primarily for my Patreon, which I then turn into products that I sell at markets. So in my mind, that kind of halves the production time that is required for the merchandise for the markets, because it's spread over the two different very large portions of my yearly income. So for me, the time cost of doing markets is exclusively days that I have for prep and travel before a market, and then the days that I am actively at the market. That's the most important data that I wanted to share with you. I do have some more fun data that I'm gonna put at the end of the video so that we don't get distracted here. So be sure to watch to the end if you do want to see those numbers as well. So how do I feel about how markets have treated me in 2024? Well, first of all, I feel obligated to say thank you to anybody who found me at a market and made a purchase, because obviously all those little bits add up over the course of the year and allow me to do this as a full-time job. I will say that these numbers were actually up quite significantly from 2023, but I think that that was mostly because I chose better markets to attend in addition to doing a couple more of them. An interesting thing to note as well is that while a lot of the discussions that I've been having with my fellow artists about art markets have indicated that people are on average making less in 2024 at markets versus 2023, it was a 50-50 split for me between 2023 and 2024 for returning markets, whether or not I made more or less in 2024. Last year, I also had more merchandise that was at a higher price point because I was selling more apparel at the markets that I was attending versus this year. But the thing about apparel and higher price point items is that they generally also cost more, so my expenses become higher as well. So overall, I would actually say for me, 2024 was better than 2023, if not pretty even when you pool all the numbers together and average it out. So the big clickbait question is, will I be doing markets in 2025? So I feel if you've made it this far, the answer is very obvious. Of course, I will be doing markets in 2025. I actually really like attending markets. It's very enjoyable for me for a number of reasons. The first one being that I find selling online to be wholly exhausting, and it's much more comfortable for me to simply show up, put my wares on display, offer them up in front of a willing and captive audience who can interact with them directly and physically, who can pay in Canadian dollars and don't have to pay shipping fees in order to buy the products. On top of that, I love the social element that it brings to my life. I work from home. I do not get out with the people very often, and it's really fun for me to be able to just turn on and be my extroverted persona for a couple of days, even though it's exhausting. And I just love being able to engage with people face to face, with my fans, with new people who are finding me for the first time, to see them look at a design and laugh or talk about how it reminds them of their cats. Not to mention being able to share cat photos with people on the spot. I feel like I get a connection to my audience at markets that is much greater than what I could achieve on social media, even though YouTube is a close second. So thank you for being here. I actually went briefly insane yesterday and made a huge chart all about everything that I did in 2024, everything that I think I want to do in 2025 and beyond. And part of that was weighing up all of my work obligations and deciding which ones brought the most joy and satisfaction to my life. And I did rank markets at the top of that. Lastly, and a bit selfishly, I do find that markets are very good for this that we have going on here. The market vlogs are by far the most popular videos here on my channel. And while I aspire to being a YouTuber with a relatively diverse portfolio of content, I can't deny that it's great motivation to continue to seek them out and attend them so I can record them and share them with you. But moving into 2025, I'm obviously not going to throw a handful of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I am going to be picky in the types of markets that I attend. When it comes to local versus faraway markets, I actually thought thought before crunching these numbers that I was going to cut back on the number of travel shows that I did, but the evidence shows that they are still worth pursuing within reason. One thing that is interesting about Vancouver shows versus shows outside of Vancouver is that it does seem that table costs are higher in Vancouver, so that is what helps to balance out the travel and accommodation expenses, where some of the tables that I was paying for here were like $250 to $300 a day, and some of the ones that I traveled for would be that cost for 3 days. And more so than anything, I am going to continue to apply to literally every show that I think interests me, because with a 50% approval rating, if I want to get between 10 and 20 shows per year, I have to, well, I guess I am throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But even while throwing handfuls of spaghetti, I am going to be picky about where I am throwing that spaghetti. So in terms of anime, niche, and craft markets, I think that obviously niche and craft markets are where my people are a little bit more than the anime and pop culture shows. And I think that anime and pop culture shows have a bit of a downside to them, which is that they are often very expensive for attendees to even get into in the first place. So with ticket costs being high and other places to spend your money at like food booths and autographs and stuff like that, there is less money circulating in the artist alleys to be spent. And on that note, a lot of anime, pop culture, and comic shows are actually expanding their artist alleys, so there are more tables available for more artists. But if the amount of money in the room does not also increase, that just means that everybody makes less money across the board. So if you're looking into doing markets in 2025, my biggest piece of advice to you is to niche down, find where your people are. If you know that a certain demographic of people are the ones that connect with your work, I highly recommend you either intuit or attend markets to find out who is there. So I know that my work tends to resonate with people who are kind of like me, a little bit alternative, a little bit nerdy, a little bit gay. And so those are the types of events where I am going to be putting myself in front of my preferred audience. If you struggle with coming up with a business plan, I think identifying your audience is a great first step. So if you haven't done that already, take a look and come up with your ideal customer and then figure out where they are. Now going into 2025, I am actually feeling a little bit nervous because my biggest market of the year was VanCaf this year, and VanCaf accounted for almost 20% of my total income from markets. And VanCaf is not happening this year. So I know going into 2025 that I am going to be down almost $8,000 in sales just from that alone. Of course, I will try to make that up in as many ways as I can, but I am being realistic because the thing about working in this particular sphere is that income is not guaranteed. You are not guaranteed to even get into any of your shows that you usually do. You are not guaranteed to make sales, and you're not guaranteed that you're not gonna like break your leg or get sick right before a big event. So while I'm nervous about losing this major income source for me, it's all part of the game. And I am steeling myself to definitely make a little bit less in 2025 than I did for the previous 3 years running. As the cherry on top of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ideas that I have for 2025 that might be changes from previous years. One thing that I've been noticing all year long is people are requesting things like magnets and patches, basically little trinkety items that are more giftable than just stickers. These are still relatively low production cost items, and a lot of them could be recycled from previous popular designs. So I'd like to expand my selection in the niche gift item categories. By the way, if you ever run out of ideas for types of products you can make, I also have a big video of, I think it's 60 plus product ideas for illustrators, so be sure to check that out after this one. I would also like to experiment with higher ticket items like plush and apparel, but I'm a bit of a chicken, and knowing going into 2025 that I'm probably not going to be generating as much income as I have in previous years, it doesn't feel like a good year to take any really big risks, but I'm hoping that I can come up with one thing that I can feel really proud of that might draw people into my table a little bit more and might boost my sales just a little bit. In terms of drawing people into my table needs a redesign. I love my table. I love my stripe aesthetic. I love my yellow, but a lot of the stuff that I have is like falling apart because it needs to be repaired or reprinted. And since I'll already be doing that, I thought it would be fun to jazz it up a little bit. And luckily there are so many amazing table designs that I'll be taking inspiration from over on Pinterest of all places. And if you're interested in watching me put that together, be sure to to subscribe because I'm sure I'll be documenting the process here. I'm also tinkering with the idea of focusing my products a little bit more and carving out more of a distinct niche or predictability to the types of merchandise that I create. Maybe come up with a more defined theme across all of my products, because I do notice that people who tend to be more successful maybe are building something like a character brand. And I've always prided myself on being an artist that is very diverse, able to work in a lot of different styles and mediums, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe now is the time to start getting a little bit more specific and honing in on what people are responding to best while still maintaining my creative freedom. And markets aside, I think overall I would really like to boost my online sales this year, especially with expecting some of these markets to not be available to me, or maybe I'm not going to get into as many as I hope. But I find it very challenging to promote my shop on top of promoting my Patreon and my markets. So I don't have a strategy for that yet, but if any of you guys have any recommendations for maybe other creators who are talking about how to run online shops and like do online marketing, like drop some recommendations in the comments because I think I need the help that I can get. So overall, I feel like markets are here to stay as long as they remain profitable for me, despite their many shortcomings. I'm actually so glad that I ran these numbers for this video. I probably wouldn't have done it in the amount of detail that I have for you here today. And it's given me a lot to reflect on and realize kind of more where I should be focusing my attention. And I feel like I'm at a point in my business where I really need to start making some decisions as to where to go next, because I've been kind of doing the same thing for a while, and I don't know about you, but I get bored. So maybe I can make some informed decisions as to how to shake things up this year and going forward. As I mentioned earlier, stay tuned for after the credits because I'm going to go over some more fun data for you. But be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts and feelings and whatever has come to mind while watching this video in the comments, because I love your comments. They are what make making these videos worthwhile. And maybe you guys are going to see something in this data that I don't, because I'm no data analyst. I'm just a guy with a calculator. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of these people over on Patreon who are helping to support the channel. They are the ones who give me the time in the day to record, to write my script, to edit the video, and put all of this together for you. I am happy to give this information away for free, but if you do want to kick back and support me a little bit, keep those pie charts pieing, signing up to be in my snack pack is the absolute best way to do it. For only $1, you can get access to digital downloads, extra video content, and podcast newsletters. And if you have a little extra to spare, I have $10 and $25 mailable reward tiers, and this month we are doing a bookworm theme. I think this one is so cute. I can't believe I've never explored a book theme in the 7 years that I've been running my Patreon sticker club. Obviously, I went a little heavy on the worm. I can't help myself, but I have these 3 rewards prepared for everyone in the big lunch club already, as well as an extra reward yet to be revealed. So if you are interested in any of the extra content or mailable rewards, please pop over to Patreon and consider supporting me there. Okay, as promised, I have some extra data for you. Thank you for sitting through the credits. Here's some fun data. So my average sale in 2024 was $23.12, which is actually down 11% from last year, according to Square. So I guess that has something to do with the apparel that I was selling last year that I don't have. But again, I probably would incur an extra 11% in product costs for those types of things. So I think that it does actually balance out when you think about it. In 2024, I sold 1,200 sticker sheets. I sold 1,000 single stickers. I sold 325 enamel pins, which boggles the mind, 300 prints, and 200 tote bags. I also sold a bunch of other stuff, but those are the most fun numbers of them that were actually correctly accounted for. In less fun numbers, I collected $1,800 worth of GST, which is the sales tax here in Canada, and you don't have to collect it if you make under a certain amount in sales per year, but I obviously make over that certain amount, so I have to collect that 5%, and then every time that I make a business expense where I am charged GST, I have to, like, when I'm doing my taxes, account for every amount that I spent on GST, and then every amount that I collected on GST, and then if there is a difference between those numbers and I collected more GST than I expensed, I have to pay the government the difference. I only had to start doing that a couple of years ago, and I was like, what do you mean I have to do more math? This is ridiculous. And the last piece of unfun info is that I paid $515 to Square for payment processing fees, but to be fair, that's on almost $30,000 worth of sales, so please do not let those payment processing fees hold you back from getting a Square reader, especially one of the free ones, because frankly, it's worth every penny. Like I mentioned, 66%, 33% sales, cash. card. But yep, that is it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. This was very fun for me to data collect and report back to you, so I hope that you enjoyed, that you are edutained as usual. And that's all I have for you today. Stay sparkly, don't let the cruel world dull your shine, and I will see you next time. Bye! Hi, baby. We need to score my attention. Tension. Nori! Why are you boys so bad? And why? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. These little goblins, I have to work around them. There's nothing I could do.